Who are the 417 Gamers? We're a group of board, card, and tabletop gamers in the 417 area code. This is the 417 Gamer Podcast. The 417 Gamer Podcast is a podcast where we're going to discuss 4 things we're enjoying or looking forward to in the 417 area, discuss one topic of the week, and finish with a list of our favorite 7 things in a category, usually pertaining to tabletop gaming, but not necessarily. We're shooting to do one official episode a month and maybe, quote-unquote, some expansion episodes that might pop up in months here and there. Without further ado, let's get on with the 417 Gamer Podcast. Welcome to the 417 Gamers. This is our introductory podcast, kind of a getting to know you. This is done for the 417 Gamers, by the 417 Gamers. We're going to have some of friends on in future episodes. The idea is I love podcasts that I listen to whenever doing chores or long drives or taking care of, bill paying and whatnots. But
Don't scare away our listeners with talking about paying bills.
I know.
Jeez.
But some of my favorite podcasts have gone away.
It's true.
And I understand. I don't begrudge anybody furthering themselves or life changing. We've got friends who've had kiddos and gotten married, and bad things have happened, good things have happened, and life happens, and you have to make your choices of what you're going to do and what you're going to spend your time on. But the idea of this is 417. The first segment, 4, we're going to talk about 4 things that we're enjoying in the 417. 1 is going to be kind of our topic of the week. And then 7 is our 7 of a thing. So this first episode, we're going to talk about our favorite 7 games of all time. Or our favorite 7 games, period. However you want to phrase that. Our topic of the week, we're going to talk about us as gamers. How we feel about games, what we look for in games, what we look for in game groups, maybe. But we'll think about that more in that segment. But in the 417, this is the 4. What 4 things are you enjoying or looking forward to in the 417? Andrea, you got anything?
As I sit here and look at the multiple pumpkins we have sitting on the floor, it's almost Halloween.
It is almost Halloween.
And our plan is to have a gamer treat where we will play games. We're very lucky in that our game table is very close to the front door. Yeah. So we'll be playing us some spooky themed games, and while we hand out treats to the kiddos. So a lot of our friends don't have kids, but
quite a few of them do.
Yeah, so hopefully if you have kids and you're listening, bring them over to our house, and we will give out all the treats while we play games. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yell at us at Metagames on a game night, and we'll say, hey, come over, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and get this up in time, but I'm looking forward to G.A.M.E, the Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo. This is the last year they're doing G.A.M.E. Chris Stewart, president of Eclectic Endeavors, has been running G.A.M.E for well over 12 years. Yeah. And like we just said, life, you just have to, you can't do everything.
Right.
And we're excited to get out there and enjoy the last game. We're sad to see it go.
Yeah.
But so we're going to head out there. That is going to be at the Springfield Expo Center, October 14th, 15th, 16th, Friday through the Sunday. It is $10 either for a single day or the whole 3-day pass. You can get your ticket at springfieldgame.com or come out and come at the door. Yeah. We will have a 417 Gamer / Moon City Con table at table 1. So
number 1. We're number 1.
So right when you come in, we will be there. There's going to be video games, cosplay, probably LARP, tabletop RPGs, board games. There's going to be artists. There's going to be vendors. I think there's going to be some snacky tables. There's going to be something for everybody.
Yeah, quite a large game library to check out.
Yeah. And there's usually their electronic library of video games. You usually have like dozen or so TVs lined up for people to play, either competitively go smash each other in Smash Brothers or shoot each other in the Halos or whatever you're feeling, or the local LARP community usually comes in. You can bash each other with foam swords, whatever you want to do. But that is the Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo.
And it's their last one, so come out and support them. And it's only $10. I mean, come on, that a McDonald's value meal costs $10 nowadays.
We hope to see you out there. The other thing that I've enjoyed in the 417, we went and saw the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon at the Juanita K. Hammonds is a musical that was written by Trey Parker and Matt Stone of South Park fame. So this is a not safe for work musical to go see.
Yes.
Yes, there's some vulgarity there, but I really thought it was cute. The music numbers were fun. I thought it was upbeat and it had heart.
Yeah.
It poked fun at some stuff, but I don't think it was overhandedly just mean.
Right.
I think it tried to tongue-in-cheek joke with and make light of some things, and then also self-deprecating humor all around.
Sure.
Nobody's perfect.
Right. But you still root for the main characters, and it's really engaging.
Yeah. I really, really enjoyed it, and it's the first time I've been to Juanita K. It's the first musical I've seen since probably like high school. And then as we were done, I saw, or right before we went to go see the movie, I saw the preview for Aladdin the musical. And the music got stuck in my head and told Andrew we might have to go back for Aladdin. And I'm still on the fence, but nah. Andrea, the fourth. What's the fourth thing?
Well, we're actually really lucky here in the 417 area that fall is an abundance of things to do. There are the fall craft festivals like cider days, and an art walk. But
apple butter making days.
Yes, but my favorite are the corn mazes, and the one that we went to in Verona. Of course, they have a huge corn maze and the people who chase you with chainsaws and stuff. Who doesn't like that? But they also have so many other things. There's stuff for little kids, and then my personal favorite is the zombie hayride. You get loaded up in this big military truck, you're given a paintball, you go off in the woods, and guess what? You hunt zombies. I can't imagine there's any listener who would think, oh, that doesn't sound like fun at all. And they're real people, they come running at the truck like a zombie, and of course they've got, they're wearing helmets and stuff to protect them. But at the end of the day, they're going to go home sore because they just get pelted with the paintballs. But yeah, it is, and they do a great job of keeping you in the moment and keeping it real. It's just really enjoyable, and I think we're really lucky here in the 417 that there's stuff to do like that.
I felt horrible for them because the zombie I shot last year, you shoot a lot of them. They have hockey pads on, they've got masks, they got everything. They had a porta potty out in just the woods. He pops out and he pops back in. Well, when he popped out, his hand was on the handle and it flexed enough to where there was a gap between his glove and his jacket. And I caught him right there on bare skin. And the zombie went, ow! And I felt horrible. If it was one of my friends, I would have laughed really hard. But I didn't shoot for a few seconds because it was like, oh, I'll shoot the cardboard cutout guy for a bit.
But be prepared for a long line because apparently that's popular.
Yes. It's like 10 seconds. Or no, it's not 10 minutes.
No. It's a long... Just like any ride at any amusement park, you've got a long line and a little roller coaster, but it's a hell of a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's like a 5-minute little and you come back. But no, that is what we're enjoying in the 417. Let's go on to the one. Gamers podcast. We're on the one. The one is kind of the topic for that episode. And this one we're kind of introducing ourselves as gamers. I've been gaming. My name's Rick. I've been gaming in the hobby sphere since about 2014. So I've been in the hobby for about 9 years. My predilection in games follows very much what I like in video games, as I'm a gameplay first person. I have the themes I do like, but if the game does not play well, theme is not going to help make up a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And in fact, it will make me look past certain themes that I don't care for. I grew up not liking Star Wars, so that's pretty well known in our game group. As a kid, I was an 80s, 90s kid. There were tons of little battles you had to go through. Marvel versus DC, Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter, Disney versus Warner Brothers, Looney Tunes. And for me on my street, the kids told me my pro wrestling was stupid and fake, and they loved Star Wars, so their Star Wars became stupid and fake. Now, the reason why I bring that up, I look past that if the video game was amazing. So Knights of the Old Republic on Xbox. Wonderful game. Look past the theme and enjoyed the video game because gameplay was awesome. One of my favorite flight games is Rogue Squadron on GameCube. That's a fantastic flight game. Same thing goes in board games. If I'm not too keen on a theme, if I've heard it's got really good or cool mechanics or something unique, I'll absolutely overlook the theme to try and play it. Next on it is the specific mechanic. I really like worker placement games. I really like action selection games. I used to not like deck builders at all, but I've softened on that quite a bit as I've seen deck building used as a side mechanic in a bigger game. Like Study in Emerald, the deck building is a side mechanic. You're building a deck, but there's other stuff you're doing in the game. And more interesting ways to use deck building, like Clank. You haven't gotten to play Clank yet. No. But Clank is a dungeon crawl where as you're gathering cards and you're playing, you're making noise. The more noise you make, Clank, you add cubes to a dragon's bag. And eventually, he's going to start giving you guys damage. There's tons of deck builders that just like... The first one that turned me around was like Star Realms. Star Realms is a fun, interactive two-player game. But I kind of thought of as deck builders as multiplayer solitaire. Because that's how Dominion kind of felt until you got some of the expansions where you got to mess with people, but I didn't think there was still enough interaction for me to care. That's one of the reasons why I came over from video games to board games. Is playing video games with friends on couch co-ops, and started playing online with friends, but then I started losing touch. You know, online is fun and all, but the face-to-face interaction with people, I cherish that way more than... I don't know, I still have some online friends I try and play with when I can. But I value the face-to-face interaction of the people I get to see on a daily basis. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I board game today. Mm-hmm. Andrea, what do you think? What do you consider yourself as a gamer? Or how long have you been gaming?
Well, I've not been gaming that long. Maybe, 4 or 5 years. Seriously. Now, of course, as a child growing up, we had all the staples. We had Monopoly, Sorry.
The mass markets.
Yeah, we had those. And, Hearts and Spades, stuff like that. But as far as what a board gamer calls board games, yeah. I've not been doing those but a few years now. Really enjoying a lot of games that I didn't think that I would. Even the super hard games, when you would start telling me the rules, about halfway through a 20-minute lecture, I have tuned out. I am no longer paying attention to what you're saying because that's way too many rules that I'm not going to remember. But then I was like, once we start playing, I was like, I actually am enjoying myself. I understand why that has to be that way. So it's kind of surprised me on what I have liked, as far as the harder games go. And like you were saying a minute ago about playing with other people.
Yeah.
For me, that's half the experience. Because even when it comes to video games, I just realized listening to you that I don't enjoy playing video games by myself. Yeah. I only like co-op video games because I grew up with a little brother who was very into video games, and we would play together, And if I had the opportunity to play by myself, it just wasn't the same. It was just kind of boring to me, just watching myself do stuff. The one exception to that is that there was a Wii game that was Harry Potter, and I believe it was the Half-Blood Prince. And you got to explore Hogwarts. And I did not care at all about playing the game. Your character got to go explore Hogwarts. So I'm like going around finding these, secret tunnels and stuff, and totally not playing the main storyline at all, because that didn't really matter to me, beating the game. I was just like, the graphics were cool and I was just having fun. So that's the one exception to a game, as far as playing by myself. But the rest of it, yeah, it's the interaction with other people and the fun that you have. That means just as much to me as how good the game is.
I would argue a lot of times it matters more to you.
Yeah.
Because in your top list, and we'll get to that later in the episode, you have some party games in your top 50 that you absolutely love because who you're playing with, and the good times that you had.
Yeah.
You look back and we've sat and played monikers with people and, just laughed our butts off.
Right.
And you enjoy... That sticks with you more than maybe a 3-hour game of Terraforming Mars where we really haven't talked with anybody.
Right. Where everybody just does their turn and moves on.
Right. Now, not to say we haven't had wonderful experiences with Terraforming Mars.
I love that game.
But you're more of an empathic person where a great event, a great gaming night will hit you. And it hits me too. Because there are some nights we get home from game night on a Thursday. We have to work Friday morning, and you ask me, hey, you tired? I'm not. I'm amped up. I had a good night of gaming.
He is like a little kid that just got home from Disneyland who ate 18 bags of cotton candy and 72 sodas, and he is ready to conquer the world. And it's like getting close to midnight, and he's got to work the next day, but he is still high on games.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gameplay first, and the experience next. Because... There's been some really cool experiential games that we've played in the last couple years. One is Forgotten Waters. And I don't know that I put that anywhere near my top 10. But as far as experiences, it's up there. We've played the base scenario 3 times, and I think we played the next mission 1 time. And every time we've laughed, we've had a great time. The voice acting is great in the app. And I don't know why that doesn't push that game up further. And maybe the fact that each time we play it with new people, we feel like we need to go back to that base scenario.
Yeah.
Maybe that pulls it down for me. I don't know. But yeah, I like the experiences. But yeah, I'm gameplay first. Whenever you look for games, what about the game... Is it the look? Is it the theme? Because you're not that big into designers yet. You know a couple names. But, like for me, I have a couple designers I look for. And some new ones now. John DeClaire right now is really high on my list. He did Mystic Vale, the card crafting thing. Dead Reckoning. He did Cubitos, which is the dice building where you keep on getting your pull of dice and trying to run your guy around the map.
Yeah.
And Ready, Set, Bet. Ready, Set, Bet is the new horse racing game that we're pretty high on.
Yeah.
So whenever you go to a game store with me, what is it? Box art that gets you? Is it a theme?
I'd say themes. If I see a box that has a bunch of woodland creatures or something like that, I'm like, oh, what's that? Because I'm theme based. I like fantasy. If I see something that's just, although I did enjoy playing Bus. It was a game about buses. Yeah. It was called Bus, and you bus around people. And I was like, that's going to be dumb. But I actually enjoyed it. But when it comes to me choosing a game, it's going to be either a theme that I enjoy, like fantasy or sci-fi or creatures, or it's going to be a part 2 of a game series that I've enjoyed the beginning game like Azul. You know, I really liked Azul, and we've recently picked up the newest Azul Queen's Garden, and it's so much different from the original Azul, but with just a little hint that enough that I knew what I was doing. So if there is a game that I liked and I see another part of that, that's going to get me.
Yeah. Theme and story does a lot more for you than it does for me.
It does.
Especially when it's on the teach. Mm-hmm. Like you said, if we're teaching a game that has a 15 to 20 minute teach, you start glazing over at about the 5 to 10 minute mark, depending on the game, depending on how much investment you had in the theme. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know what the theme is and what you're trying to do, and I know a lot of games, points. Yeah. Well, what are these points? Where am I going to get for these points? The story for the points, you know?
Yeah.
Like, Whirling Witchcraft. You're brewing potions or whatever ingredients you have too much of, spill over and go back to your opponent for their points. Mm-hmm. So the idea is you're trying to be more efficient getting all your ingredients out.
Yeah.
That's the theme. And you have that I Love Lucy conveyor belt of ingredients mm-hmm. coming your way, and you're trying to use them.
Yeah.
But if somebody just says, you just don't want to get cubes, that doesn't lock it in with you. And that's a bad rules explanation anyway. Not say you can't grasp it, but you grok it a lot easier if you can tie the theme with the mechanic.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So that, I don't know, it just helps me understand. Well, why am I trying to put these cubes in these 7 different places? Well, there's 7 different kingdoms and they all need different treasure. Okay, that completely makes sense to me now. So, yeah, absolutely. Theme for me is huge.
Yeah. Now, we've been culling some games from our collection. When we're looking at culling a game, what do you look for in a game that is time, or maybe do we leave that for a different segment?
I say that's a whole
maybe culling is a whole different topic.
Whole different can of worms.
This is who we are as gamers. I'm the more mechanical gamer. Andrea's more thematic. Mm-hmm. I love the gameplay and theme behind it is secondary to me. I do like good components, but I've got some games that have crap components and they play really, really well. Mm-hmm. And I probably will never get rid of them. Yeah. Probably. Mm-hmm. Unless they make a better version, a second edition, third edition.
Right.
Then that's it. But that was our topic of the week.
Yes.
Let's go on to our 7. You're listening to the 417 Gamer podcast. If you're going to be in the 417 area in the month of November, here's a couple of events to look forward to. Saturday, November 12th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., Metagames is holding their flea market. They only have a few tables left, so if you're interested, head over to their Facebook page at Metagames Unlimited, or just head on out and see if you can find a great deal on a game for you. Also, Black Friday, November 25th, 417Gamers is holding Werewolf at Banter Brewery at 330 West Farm Road 182. Come on out. We'll be there from 6 to close. Now, back on to the 417 Gamer podcast. 417 Gamers, this is the last segment. This is the 7 in the 417 Gamers, where we talk about our 7 favorite of a thing. We're going to start off with talking about our favorite 7 games of all time. So, I've had Andrea...
is it of all time or right now at this moment?
Yes.
I think it's more right now at this moment.
For me, it's all time.
Really?
Well, and because I'm thinking of... Yeah, I guess... Well, sure. Hey.
Okay. It's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, it's whatever you want it to be. Your favorite 7... Just call it your favorite 7 games.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kick this off with Scythe. Scythe was designed by Jamie Stegmaier, published by Stonemaier Games in 2016. The credited artist is Jakub Rozalski. This is set in alternate 1920s, 30s dystopia. Europe or Europa has fallen. They've lost their machinery and mechs and any of the technology.
And mechs. Did you say mechs?
Well, you don't start with any.
I know. Then that's sad.
It is sad. And you know what makes people happier?
Mechs.
Mechs. So you start with a faction. And a lot of the factions are European nationalities. So you have your Germany, your Russia, your Poland, your Nordic countries, factions.
Yeah.
Really like this game. I got over 60 plays in this. And a lot of times I enjoy teaching this game as much as I enjoy playing this game. Especially with players that are ready for it, that have been playing, I would say their next step games or kind of light mid Euros or above.
Yeah, there's no way I could have played this my first real board game. I would have drowned.
Well, I scale back when I'm playing newer players. Mm-hmm. If I'm playing with just newer players, I let them know that I will not allow myself to attack. It makes me find other strategies. It hamstrings what I can do, mm-hmm. and it gives them a chance to go around the board and explore. It's going to make it a longer game.
Yeah.
Because in our game group, we have some players that if we, even on a 5-player game, we can get it over in about 40 minutes, 30 minutes.
Wow.
We had a 15-minute game that was 4 players when we did a little tournament about 3 years ago. We posted, and Jamie Stegmeyer, he posted back, he goes, there's no way. And the player that won our tournament, he posted his turn order because he wrote it down. Mm-hmm. He was... One of our players, a couple of our players are meticulous and write down their stuff, and they analyze it.
Especially in a tournament.
Yeah. And he goes, okay. And it was after that we started noticing that some people were grabbing about player board combinations. And honestly, there's very few games that I see that people play so many times to analyze it that much. Mm-hmm. To go, hey, this is imbalanced. And then you start looking at it like, okay, that player board combination is winning a little bit more than the rest. I mean, it's not unbeatable, but it's pretty tough. Mm-hmm. So number 7, Scythe. Andrea, what is your number 7?
My number 7 is on the other end of the spectrum, and it is Patchwork.
Yeah.
Just a little 2-player quick game that first interested me because it reminds me of Tetris. It has the same player pieces, kind of the same shapes as Tetris, and you're building a quilt. Mm-hmm. You've got little scraps of fabric that you have to choose from, and you put them in where they're going to fit the best, Tetris wise, and you have to pay for them with buttons, which is also fun. And there are multiple different versions of Patchwork. There's the Halloween, there's Christmas, there's the original, there's Valentine's Day. My personal favorite is the Halloween because instead of paying with buttons, you pay with little eyeballs, and the graphics and the art is really fun. And it's a pretty quick game too. We can usually play in about 15 minutes. So we can if we just want to play a little light something, it's a perfect bit.
It's excellent. That was designed by Uwe Rosenberg, released in 2014 by Lookout Games. So that bumps us up to number 6. Andrea, what is your number 6?
Oh, my number 6 game. It's not a board game, but it is a game, and that is Cards Against Humanity. Mm-hmm. And I know some of the hardcore gamers out there listening are groaning right now because that's not a board game, but it is a game. It is designed by Josh Dillon and Daniel Janivor. It's published by Cards Against Humanity LLC because they're that big of a company. It is a wonderful thing to have around if you are going to be with a group of people who are not board gamers. And the only thing they've ever played in their life is Monopoly or Uno or Sorry.
As long as they have a not safe for work humor.
Yes. It's very... if you have a dirty mind, you're going to love this game. So don't bring grandma to the table. Or some grandmas maybe. But some of my favorite memories of game nights are around Cards Against Humanity. And I hope I never get too curmudgeon-y to not enjoy this game.
That brings me to my number 6, which is our only crossover. It's higher on Andrea's list, and when it pops up, we'll talk about it then.
Okay.
That brings us to number 5. My number 5 is Memoir 44. This is designed by Richard Borg, published by Days of Wonder in 2004. This is a World War II board game. It's very light. It's dice and card driven. I like Memoir 2-player just fine. But why it's so high on my list is because of the multiplayer modes that you can add on through expansions. So my favorite mode is Overlord, and that is getting at least 2 copies. And you don't have to get the Overlord expansion, but I do prefer it because it adds another set of dice, and it adds the Overlord cards. In Overlord, it plays up to 8. You play with 3 field commanders on each side, and then you have a general off the game that hands out the cards, which signify, or it mimics the chain of command. Sometimes chain of command didn't come down very fast, and your generals will have their hand of cards, and sometimes they'll have crap in their hand. Because like I said, the cards dictate which side of the field you can play. You might have your person on the left flank getting just ganged up on the person across from them, but you have nothing to help them out. You're like, here's a probe card, and a probe lets you play 1. And he's like, what the hell? I'm like, that's what I got. I really like this game because of the team mechanic in that expansion, the camaraderie. We've played with people that have been gaming forever, and we've played with people that have barely been gaming. And it goes over so well. I've got a tackle box, a tote, and a card deck box full of this game. I've got at least 6 copies of the base. I have 2 copies of most of the expansions. I've got a pretty sizable collection of it, and I don't ever see myself getting rid of it. I get to play it about twice a year, at least the Overlord variant. And you've been nice enough to play the 2-player version with me a couple times. But that is Memoir 44.
And I think that if you're listening and you're like, oh, I don't need another war game, I've had tons of them. This one's different and special in that it's historically accurate, which is my fascination with it. Like the D-Day landing up on the beach, you have the troops on both sides start at the positions that they actually started in for the real war. And it's like, okay, here's what happened. What would you do in this situation? How would you move your troops? That is fascinating to me, and I really enjoy that.
But, yeah, the D-Day landings is really, really fun, but it takes all day. Andrea, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is Azul Queen's Garden version. If you are familiar with the original Azul, which I love, didn't make my list just because I prefer this version. This version is harder, in my opinion. It has some of the same elements as the original Azul in that you take turns drawing your little tiles. But your board is, you're making a garden, and your tiles are either little butterflies or flowers, and it's a lot more complicated and intricate. Got a lot. The scoring is a lot different from the original Azul. We have a good friend of ours, Catherine, and Brian. They played with us, and she's a heavy gamer. She's heavy Euro dry games, and we brought this over. She froze up because there were so many different combinations to choose from, and as soon as we were done playing, she wanted to play it again because she had to figure it out. So yeah, I wouldn't start someone with this who's not used to playing games. If you're like, oh, I like original Azul, we'll play this, and you might be a little bit over your head. But if you'd like an extra challenge in Azul and you think, oh, that's too simple or basic, this would be a great game for you.
So that was number 5. Andrea, let's go on to number 4. What is your number 4?
My number 4 is Terraforming Mars. I am a theme-based player. Told me originally about this game, and you're like, well, you're literally terraforming Mars. I was like, ooh, that's really interested in the sci-fi geek inside me. My ears perked up. The cards are, you're literally terraforming, and it's scientifically accurate enough to keep it real for me. Like it has the planet temperature has to be so high, and the oxygen in the atmosphere has to be to a certain point before you could plant trees or before moss will start to grow. You can also do fun things like crash a comet into the planet to raise the temperature from the fire it brings.
Or the little moon.
or the little moon.
Demos down.
Yeah, and bring it down and rain the pain on the other players.
You can read faces and know when somebody gets Demos down. You're like, oh, you're...
You got a good card.
Yeah.
It is a lot. It's a card hand that you're trying to manage. You start out with, you can choose from like, is it 8 cards or 10 cards?
I think you get 10 cards, but you have to pay for them.
Yeah, you do have to pay for them. They're not free, and every round you're offered to draw new cards, but they're not free. You have to pay for them. So you have to manage your money very carefully.
Yeah.
Even if there's a really good card, you might not be able to afford to play it. So you have to be heads up on all of that. But I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It is a longer game. It takes at least 2 hours, I would say, is pretty... if you play with 4 players.
Once everybody knows what they're doing, I would say about 20 to 30 minutes per player.
Okay.
But if you're playing with a newbie, that person's going to take 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Because there's so much text on the cards. There's so much symbology that they're going to read every card that comes in their hand.
Yeah.
Now, once you've played once or twice, you are now going to start looking at symbology and color of cards. And the cost. If you have a card that's really expensive, unless it is the thing that's going to push you above and start getting you some income, you're going to chuck that card.
Right.
And especially if it's something that's like, oh, that'll give me 2 points, but you're not going to be able to do it for like 5 rounds.
Yeah. It'd be better for you to wait and try some other smaller cards
Yeah,
first.
you need a 0 temperature and you need, 2% oxygen.
Yeah.
Or 5% oxygen or something like that. Like, I'm not ever going to play this.
Right.
But yeah, Terraforming Mars by Jacob Friselius, published by Stronghold Games. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
My number 4, our good friend Catherine, this is her fault. She showed me a game that, as far as I know, has not had a U.S. print, and that is called Hab and Gut, or loosely translated, The Rich and the Good. This is designed by Carlo Rossi, published by Ares Games in 2008. Hab and Gut is you're all nobles that are participating in the stock market. You're buying and or selling stocks, and then you're manipulating the stock market. And you're also giving to charity. After 8 rounds, after you've manipulated stocks and bought stocks, whoever's given the least to charity is kicked out of your club for being a dirty, rotten, stinking, stingy jerk. And then, after that, whoever has the most money wins.
And wouldn't that be great if that was how it really happened on Wall Street?
So, the mechanic in this game is you have a rack of cards that tell you how much the stock market is going to be manipulated by. You'll have figures anywhere from positive 2 to 6 or negative 2 to 6. And on your turn, you're going to buy or sell up to 3 stocks. Once everybody's done that, then you're going to manipulate the market. You're going to play a card from each of the racks. One from your right, one from your left. So you get in this thing where you have a loose alliance and also a rivalry with the person that you share a rack of cards with. Yeah. Because you might be gunning for the same stock, and when you are, you both want to play those cards at full potential to get the most value out of that stock.
Yeah.
But as soon as one of you dumps the stock, they might know something on their other rack that's coming back. And so do you try and lay on the grenade and hurt your stock the least so you can get back out from under, or do you weather the storm? Really love this one. This is not had a bad game yet. And I really love pulling this out. The only downside is it's paper money, but this is from 2008. And it was a year of printing, and I just happened to come upon this in my friendly local game store, and I love that I have this game.
Yeah.
So that brings us to number 3. My number 3 is Pitch Car, designed by Jean Dupuel, published by Ferty or Eagle Griffin Games. First published in 1995, and I think it was originally published under the name Carabande. But Pitch Car is a dexterity game where you're putting together wooden track pieces that have little puzzle cutouts to connect them together. And then you take a wooden puck and you flick it around the track that you make. The boxes have kind of already made tracks if you want to, or you make up whatever you want. And the base game is fine. But once you get all the expansions, and you get ramps, and you get jumps, and you get a loop, and then you go onto Board Game Geek and go into their forums, and look at different... You look at the Flick 'em Up, you look at the Seesaw, and the Doku, and all these different things that you can do with your tracks, and you get into that, and then you realize, you know what? I'm just going to make crap up on my own. And I find that making the track is half the fun, and sometimes more than the fun. We run Moon City Con, and we always run Pitch Car. And the first round is always nice-ish to our players. There's maybe a feature, maybe two, where you have a ramp or a jump or a loop or a little obstacle. Mm-hmm. Then there's the finals. In the finals, I tear everything down and I make something brand new. This last one, there was a ramp, there was a jump. There was the boing, which are 90s with rubber bands. Then there was the loop. I hung our Christmas lights. We have a little Christmas light that can go as a necklace. Mm-hmm. Put that on there. So I think you had to go through or around, which was its own obstacle. But I love this game. I only pull it out once or twice a year, but I think about this a lot. Mm-hmm. And those are my favorite games, the ones I think about the most.
Yeah.
Andrea, your number 3.
Well, my number 3 is Splendor Marvel Edition, designed by Marc Andre and published by Space Cowboys and Asmodee. I like the original Splendor game. Mm-hmm. It was one of my first gateway games into the harder board games. Not that it's hard, but it was a type of gaming I was not used to.
Well, and we'll get into gateway game at another time. This is one of, if not my top gateway game. Mm-hmm. Splendor in general.
Right. Splendor Marvel makes it even better because it is themed on Marvel Avengers Infinity War. You are trying to collect all of the Infinity Stones to win, and you have to make points, and the points are on the cards. Different characters like the Hulk is worth 3 or 4 points, whereas a lower level character might not be worth any points, but he's got a
Star-Lord's worth 2.
Yeah, but they might have a gem on them that you need. It's fun because you're building your own team of Avengers, trying to get all the Infinity Stones first. Of course, the first one to collect them all is a winner. I like it because there's other ways to get points too, other just the player cards. You can get locations like Asgard or nowhere, and if you have the most Avengers in your team, because not all the cards are Avengers, there's other characters like Daredevil or Spider-Man or Spider-Ham. Mm-hmm. There's Lockjaw from the Inhumans. There are no Fox licensed characters like the X-Men, because this game was printed before they came to an agreement on those.
Until the mouse said, get in there.
Right. But yeah, I really, really enjoy playing this game. And it's really great for my friends and family who are big Marvel fans.
Nice. So now that brings us to 2. Andrea, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is Agricola, All Creatures Great and Small. Mm-hmm. It is similar to the original Agricola game in that it's farming, and but this is a smaller 2-player version where you have just one small little map in front of you. I was really interested in playing this game because when I was a little kid, my thing to do was to have all my little animals, and I had little fences, and I would like make little stalls for my horses and stuff. And that's what you're doing in this game. But of course it's in a difficult way against your opponent. It is a very technical game. It's not just playing with little animals. It is difficult in that there's only 8 turns for the whole game, and it's worker placement, and if you don't get every turn just right, you will lose. You can't make a mistake and win. You just, maybe one mistake and you're like, oh, I should have gotten that instead. But I really enjoy it. It is a lot more difficult than it sounds. Rick beat me the first 5 times that we played it, and it would really upset me too, because I grew up on a farm, and this was my jam, and I knew way more about how to do this stuff than him. And
we haven't played it since you won.
Yeah, and then I won, and we never need to play it again. No, that's not true. I would still play it again, but it's not fair when you win.
I understand.
Oh, and that is designed by Uwe Rosenberg and published by Lookout Games.
Mm-hmm. My number 2 is Viticulture. My top 2 are no surprise, but Viticulture, designed by Jamie Stegmaier, Alan Stone, published by Stonemaier Games in 2013. In this is farming as well, but you've inherited a little patch of land in Tuscany, and you're going to start your own vineyard, but there's nothing on the land, so you have to start from scratch. You're going to build structures, you're going to plant grapes, you're going to harvest grapes, you're going to crush grapes into wine, you're going to solicit wine orders from buyers, you're going to sell those wine. Mm-hmm. You're going to give tours to make some money so you can then buy all that stuff. You're going to bring in summer and winter visitors to visit your place and maybe give you bonuses or some money. The base game is really fun, and I really like, and I've kind of made this joke that, like, the second edition brought in the Grande worker. Mm-hmm. Most worker placements, you have a finite amount of spaces where you can take your action. Well, when they're filled up, a lot of times you're just hosed. This introduced the Grande worker, or the Karen. The Karen wants to talk to a manager and want to know why she can't take the action. Or he or she, the Karen.
I don't care that there's already someone here. I'm going there anyway.
I'm going there anyway. So the Karen or Grande worker can be used as a normal worker, or if the space is clogged up, you put the Karen next to the side, it talks to the manager, and it takes the action as normal. And while I like the base game just fine, it is the Tuscany expansion that puts it up as high as it is. The Tuscany, instead of just having 2 seasons, plays 4 seasons. And the puzzle of it is, whenever you use a worker in any one season, they are stuck there until the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So you want to build structures and give tours to get money and plant grapes and get wine order cards and attract summer visitors and harvest and squish grapes and visit winter and sell some wine.
And make a bigger cellar to hold your new wine.
And make builders bigger cellars. But you only start with like 3 workers, and you got 10 things you want to do in a year. So you've got to make a plan for 1 year that leads into the next year, and it's a slow. It's a snowball. You start off with this tiny little snowball that doesn't feel like it's going to amount to much, and you're like, oh, I finally got a point. I got 2 points. I got 3 points, and at the end of the game, you're like, oh, I'm pulling out 5-point turn, and I'm pulling out a 9-point turn, and it's over before you're ready for it to be over. Mm-hmm. And most people that have their first and second play, their first play, as long as they don't take it too hard, because this is a game that I feel like it's hard to pull back on, and a new player is probably going to get spanked a bit. But if they keep an open mind, most of the people that we've played with want to play it again. Yeah. And this plays about 30 minutes per player. And if there wasn't so much of a time constraint to it, they'd play it again. But we have a lot of our friends that after they play it, like, okay, I'll play that again. Mm-hmm. Then you bring them back into it. They put together a better strategy. They got a better score. So like the first game, maybe they did 10 points. Yeah. The next game, they got 16 points. Mm-hmm. They still were a little bit away from the end game. Yeah. But at least they felt like they had that engine getting going. Right. But so that is my number 2, Viticulture, which brings us to our number 1s. Once again, I said my number 1, no surprise, Concordia. Designed by Matt Gertz, published in 2013 by PD Verlag, or Rio Grande Games in the States. This is a hand-building game where you're building a hand of cards to take actions on the board. This is set in Pax Romana. You take a family that is expanding their trading influence throughout the world. You're going to travel different cities and put up shops, and each city has a specific resource that they manufacture or that they're famous for, whether it be brick, food, tools, wine, or cloth. On your turn, you're going to play a card out of your hand, and you're going to take that action. The cards not only take the actions, but at the bottom they tell you that they favor of God. And the God is how you get your points. Like Jupiter will give you a point for every city that you built into that is not a brick city. Then you have Saturn. Saturn gives you a point for every region you've built into, regardless of type. Aries will give you points for 2 points for every colonist you put on the map. There's a way to put more colonists on the map. You have Vesta gives you a point for every good and or resource you have at the end of the game. Minerva gives you points specified on cards. So you're buying your cards, and you're also expanding and exploring the map. And you have to find that happy medium. If you buy too many cards, but you haven't expanded on the map, your cards are worthless. However, if you've expanded on the map, but you haven't bought enough cards, then you got 3 cards that are worth a lot of points, and then you haven't bought enough cards to really win the game. I really enjoy this. It's an elegant system, and one of our friends from they just ended their run on the Mix 6 podcast, Spencer Harris, talked about his comfort games. Whenever you just want to sit down and play a game that you know, play a game that just feels almost like a stew, a chicken soup, just something you just want to relax and play. This is tops for me. But that is Concordia by Matt Gertz. Which brings us to Andrea's number 1, which was my number 6.
Right.
Andrea?
And our only crossover.
Our only crossover.
Of our list, which was surprising for me.
Yeah.
My number 1 is Arc Nova, designed by Matthias Wiggy and published by Capstone Games. As I mentioned earlier, I am a theme game-based player. I really get into the theme of a game, and in this one, you are building your own zoo.
Yeah.
Which is so much fun because the reality of this game is really enjoyable to me, much like Terraforming Mars. The pictures of the animals, the habitat that you have to have of them is accurate. I enjoy that, but it's actually a really complicated game. You've got a lot going on. You're not just getting animals for your zoo, but you have to build the structures that they need. You have to, there are conservation points that you get for different actions that you take. You can build partnerships with other continents. And if you do that, then you get a discount when you buy animals that are from that continent. So there's a lot going on in this game. And much like Terraforming Mars, there is a huge stack of cards. Oh, yeah. And you might get some really great cards, or you may get a hand where you have nothing that you can play. So you are at the mercy of the deck a little bit there. But all in all, we both really enjoyed this game.
Oh, yeah.
Me for the theme and Rick for the gameplay.
Yep. I really enjoy the gameplay. So your actions are taken by your action cards at the bottom of your player board. The bottom of your player board is numbered 1 through 5. And whenever you take your action card, the number that's above it is how strong that action is. Mm-hmm. So if you take a build structure that's a 3, the biggest structure you can build is a 3-level structure or smaller. You must build structures before you can then put animals into those structures. Then you might have an association card. Association card allows you to go and partner, like you said, with other countries, or maybe partner with the universities to get extra powers. Mm-hmm. Later in the game, you're going to use it to support some conservation projects, because the end of the game happens whenever your appeal or your tickets that you get from all the animals you've put in your zoo crosses over with your conservation points. Because
the better your animals, the more money you can charge for your tickets.
Of course. And I really there's so many pieces to this. And the deck of cards, like you said, you can just get a crap hand. And you might have that game. But I've played enough games now with that thick stack of cards, Terraforming Mars, this, and a few others, where I have now learned to forgive that. I understand that randomness may just kick me in the butt that game. But I enjoy the rest of it. And there's something to be said. You put in Marvel Splendor earlier as well. If you run through it and people just taking all the cards that you need to win, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to build the zoo I want to. I'm going to build the Marvel team I want to. I'm going to take every Spider character, whether it's Spider-Ham or Scarlet Spider, Spider-Gwen, all of them. You're not taking my Spider people. I'm taking them. In the zoo, you know what? I'm gonna build petting zoos. It's just gonna be one huge petting zoo because I'm doing crap anyway.
Right. And that's still, you still enjoy the game because there are a lot of games that I have played with you where about halfway through the game, I realize I have no chance of winning. Yeah. There's no way I can come back from this. This game, I still enjoy playing. And there's, it's hard to know because you can come from behind and win. Because if at the end you pull out a great sponsorship card where you got a lot of points because you had all kinds of monkeys in your zoo and this sponsor's into monkeys and you get all kinds of points.
I wish we had a sponsor bed there. This sponsor is also into monkeys.
But yeah, I like games where I'm still going to enjoy it. The longer games where I'm not just knowing, I'm just hosed. It's over for me now. But no, this one's still fun regardless.
Okay. So as we're going forward, if we last a full year, next 2003 at the end of the year, we'll probably revisit our top 7.
You mean 2023?
Yeah, 2023.
You said 2003.
Yeah, 2023. I missed a 2 there. Whenever we come back to this, as long as we're still doing this, we'll probably revisit and see what our top 7 is.
Yeah.
My Concordia and Viticulture for the longest time have been so strong, my number 1 and 2. I couldn't have foreseen a time when they fell down. Mm-hmm. I'm playing so many games. We're playing so many good games. Mm-hmm. Like I told you, my favorite games are the games I think about the most when I haven't, after we've played them, or when I haven't played them in a while. I haven't played Concordia since earlier this summer, and I'm kind of jonesing for a play.
Yeah.
Same thing with Viticulture. That's honestly why TI4's kind of dropped a little bit. It used to be like my number 3 or 4.
Oh.
But TI4 is now, it's down to my 8. And part of that could be because I haven't played it in a bit. But also, I don't know. I need to get it played again. It might, who knows? Next year, if I get it played, it might bump back up. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and like you said, there's always new games coming out. I see there are 3, 4 of my top 7 that were published in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So who knows what my list will be like next year.
All right. Well, that's our first episode of the 417 Gamers. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. The 417 Gamer podcast is recorded and produced by Rick Bagwell and Andrea Smith. Our intro music, Kind, Gentle, Beautiful Person, and our outro music, Make It for the Last Time, is by Origami Replica. For more information, notes, and links to downloads for the song, head on over to our show notes on Libsyn.com or onto our Facebook page, currently under the Banana Podcast. We'll see you next time. Keep gaming.